the dark of the night, we creep without a sound. Grizzly Chris and the gang, searching all around. With our flashlights blazing, we call out to the air. Who knows what we'll find if we dare to care. Spirits start to giggle, the ghosts wanna play. Ghost hunting's a blast, it's all in good fun. With Grizzly Chris leading, the adventure's begun. Let's chase after shadows, let's hunt for a scare. Who thinks we'll find something? Come join if you dare.
To a YouTube channel near you.
Welcome everybody to another edition. This edition is brought to you by Rest in Peace Paranormal Gear. Make sure and check them out at reargear1971@gmail.com. I have their products. Make sure and check them out. I use them on my ghost hunts and adventures. Thank you, Eric. Hello there, Rob. How you doing today?
Hi, Grizzly. Doing great. How are you?
Back on the channel. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Again. So everybody that don't know you, introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself as well, sir.
All right. So I'm a medium. I call myself a pet medium because I specialize in pets, but I also communicate with people who passed as well. I'm a paranormal investigator, an author of 11 books in 3 different series, Pets in the Afterlife, Ghosts on a Medium's Vacation, and Ghosts versus Spirits. And there's a difference. During my day job, I am a meteorologist. So as a scientist, I use the science of energy to explain how the paranormal exists and behaves.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So how long have you been doing this kind, sir?
It's been about 15 years. that's when I wrote my first book, and I started working as a medium and paranormal investigator about 2010. But my first experience was when I was 13 years old, which was a long time before 2010.
And what happened when you was 13, kind sir?
So when I was 13 years old, my grandfather, who died in December of the previous year, appeared to me in July and in color, and scared the life out of me. And I remember running out of the house and waiting for my parents to come home. And I told them. And my mother said we had to talk because she had the ability, she was afraid to use it. And I learned later on, Grizzly, that my grandfather, the one that appeared to me, also had that ability, and another cousin who lived in Massachusetts who would solve murders with the police in Randolph, Massachusetts. I think back in the 30s and 40s, also had the ability. So runs in my mother's side of the family.
Wow. So when you first learned that you had the abilities, how did you realize it, and what did you do when you found out?
Well, my grandfather's appearance was really the shock, and that was the awakening. But I kind of buried it because, at 13 years old, you're trying to finish, high school and go to college and get a job and a career and all that. So that's what I did. And it really wasn't until 2005 that my abilities came back full blown, when a puppy I had named Buzz, who was on the cover of my Pets in the Afterlife one book. He's a Weimaraner. He was tragically killed by a car at 7 months old, and he came to me immediately and did a whole bunch of things. So that's how it came to be. That's how I reawakened my abilities.
You said you have 11 books in 3 series. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So
I've already written number 12.
So how'd you start those books out, and what came to those books into your mind, and how they come to be?
Yeah, so I never really I never imagined myself writing books, but I love to read, and I started reading comic books when I was a kid. So I love superheroes. And I used to draw too. I used to draw and write my own stories. And all of that has come in handy with these books. But the books really started when my puppy passed, because I used to keep a diary and I wrote everything down. And after I went back and read it, like a couple of years later, back in 2008, I started realizing that this could be really helpful for people who lost their pets, to recognize signs their pets are sending. And that inspired me to write my first book.
So you deal a lot with pets. How did that come to be involved, sir?
Well, I also work with animal rescue. So I'm very much a dog and cat lover. Do you have a dog or a cat?
Yes, I have 2 Chihuahuas, Tiny and Emmett.
Oh, cool. Do you have any on the other side?
Yes, I do. Jed and Emmett.
Okay, so one of the things I note in my book is that dogs and cats, living dogs and cats, have the ability to see and hear dogs and cats in spirit. So if you've noticed your Chihuahuas staring at something and there's nothing there, yes, make note of the date, because the date could be the anniversary of one of your other dog's passings, or their birthdays, or their adoption dates.
Really? I never thought of it that way. I never had. That is a good way to look at it.
Yeah,
I want to make sure and write that down, because a lot of people ask me about that, and we talk about this in other shows, that people will be sitting on the edge of the bed and they will be like, Grizzly, I swear my cat jumped on the edge of the bed that passed 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so that's actually the first time that they really start coming through, is usually within the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of their passing. And the reason they try to do that is because they want to give us as pet parents assurance that they are okay in spirit. So you may feel a physical sign like a cat walking across the bed. You may hear a bark or a meow that sounds like it's coming from another room because it takes so much energy for the spirit to make that audible noise. You may feel a cold spot or a nudge or see something move or have something electrical in your home go off. There's so many ways that pets will communicate, but those are just a few of them. So yeah.
So what do you recommend for people that lose their pets or animals? What are your thoughts for them to take into account?
So one of the things that that I get asked about is how to deal with the grief and the loss first. And in my Pets in the Afterlife books 3 and 4, one about dogs and one about cats, I consulted with two friends of mine. One is a medical psychologist, and the other one is a social worker, clinical social worker. Both of them deal with people in grief. So I had each one of them write chapters on how to best cope with grief and loss. Because as a medium, the only thing I can do is teach you how to look for signs. And Grizzly, I found that looking for signs may not be enough because our grief it can be overwhelming. And grief is a negative emotional energy that actually blocks the positive energy of spirit trying to give us a sign. So don't fret after your pet has passed that you don't get a sign the first week or month. It's not that they're not trying. It's just that your grief is blocking it.
Do all pets really go to heaven?
Yeah, they do, except for the ones that decide to stay earthbound, which is probably about half a percentage point.
Really?
Yeah. And I've learned so much talking to pets on the other side. So, as a dog dad, you know that when your dogs know that there's a good situation, like or a good person that comes in, they'll go over and greet them. They know a good person. They know a good situation. Conversely, if there's tension in the house or if there's somebody that comes in that they don't like, they're going to go the other way. So when a pet passes, the energies within them, and we have physical energies within our bodies, combined with their memories and their personality and their knowledge of this life. And then they make a choice, just like humans. We can either choose to stay behind at a fixed location, and that's what I call a ghost. And pets don't do that, really. Or we cross over, because when we pass, we have enough energy that we can open a doorway to the other side, heaven, paradise, Valhalla, whatever you want to call it. The reason 99.5% of pets cross over is because they sense the other side is nothing but love and peace and contentment, just like they do in the physical when they meet people. I've only met 2 earthbound cats and 1 earthbound ghost dog in the 15 years I've been doing this. And they stayed behind because their pet parent had, they were so devoted to their pet parent that they stayed behind. And when the pet parent crossed over, these 3 pets didn't cross. One of them, a ghost dog that I wrote about in my Ghosts of England book, decided to stay because she loved to greet people that came into their home. This particular home, John Soane's house in London, is now a museum filled with all of his stuff, and his little dog still runs around there and greeted me when I came into the door. So most 99.5% of pets cross over, and dreams are the easiest way for pets to communicate.
I was going to ask that because Ninja Dave says, I have dreams of my pet Rottweiler that has passed on. And we know that with family members that have passed on, they come back as well as in dreams to make contact. So that was a good question.
Yeah. So, and the dreams are usually within, as I said, 2 to 4 weeks of their passing. And sometimes the pet will show you that they're okay back in spirit. When my Weimaraner Dolly passed away, she's one up here on Pets in the Afterlife 3. She and my dog Franklin passed away both in 2020 within 5 months of each other. Dolly was my heart dog. In the last year of her life, she wore a diaper because she was incontinent with number 1 and number 2. That night she passed, I dreamt of her, and she was in the backyard without a diaper, standing up fine, and she looked at me, and I heard her say, "Dad, I'm okay." And that was such a tremendous comfort to me. So that's how pets will come back to you in your dreams, let you know they're okay in spirit, and maybe with somebody that is on the other side of them.
That's awesome. So when you help people with pets, what do you usually do, and how does that work?
So I do pet readings. I do them. I do them on the weekends. I'm going to be doing them a little more often now because I retired.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It happens when you get old, you know.
You're still young. You're like a bottle of wine, sir.
Oh yeah. It's bad lighting, but that's what it is. But I do my readings by email because it's really hard to listen to what a pet is saying or showing you telepathically, and talking to a person. So I do them in my home office and in the dark, and I play soft music and I connect to the pet through a picture, and then I write them all out by email so people have them to reread. And what's interesting is that I've heard from a lot of people that say, I really like the email readings because like a year later on the anniversary of my pet's birthday, I'll pull it out and I will reread it, and it will give me comfort again. Yeah.
Wow. When you actually try to read a canine or an animal, is there a lot of gibberish, a lot of like a squirrely action, so much going on in their head at once, or a lot of
Well, that's just my head. Really.
That's my head too. That's why I
yeah. So usually when I first connect to a dog or a cat, they try to tell me so many things all at once.
Right. That's what I think.
You know, I type as fast as I can. What's funny is that if I'm asking them a direct question that their pet parent asks, they will give me an answer, and then suddenly they'll go to something else before they finish. And then I'll say, no, I need the rest of the answer. And then they'll go back to it. It's like talking to a 4-year-old kid, you know. You'll say, what kind of food do you want? And they'll start talking about their food, and then they'll go, but I want my transformer. Have you seen my transformer? And then you go, no, I'm talking about food. And that's what dogs and cats do.
Wow, that's interesting. It really
is.
Now, can you walk into a room and automatically pick up to them? And like if you're over a friend's house or a neighbor's?
A couple of times that's happened. And the reason it doesn't happen very often is because I really have to focus. I did go over a friend's house who lost a dachshund probably about 10 years ago. And when I walked in the door, I could hear, I actually heard audible rustling in in his hallway on the carpet. And I said, is there somebody else here? Do you have, did you get another dog? And he said, no. And I said, well, who's rustling in the hallway in the carpet? And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, well, your dog is here and wanted to let you know that he's still okay.
Wow.
So once in a while.
I know one of our viewers wasn't able to make it today, and one of the questions they asked was like, well, ask Mr. Gutro, has he ever been over somebody's house and be like, hey, would you tell my parents to quit doing this? It's driving me nuts. You know how you see that on TV. Does that actually happen?
Rarely, I would say. Yeah, rarely. It really takes a lot of concentration to communicate with a pet. Because in my first Pets in the Afterlife book, I cite the reason why. And You know, first of all, they're very easily distracted. As a dog dad, you know, if you walk your dogs, they're not going to be focusing on the walk all the time. Suddenly they'll go, oh, squirrel,
Right.
you know, or a leaf blew. I need to go after it. Um, and that's why I really need to concentrate with, because distractions are very easy. So.
Interesting. What are some of your most memorable experiences doing readings?
Oh my gosh, I have like 5,000 of them.
Right.
Um, there was well, the very first reading I did was about a little Chihuahua named Chico that came to me when I was sitting at my friend Barb Mallon's event. Barb Mallon is a medium in Virginia, and she used to invite me to come sit at her open medium sessions. They used to have like 40, 50 people there. And this little dog, this was when I was just getting started. This little dog came to me. The audience was, in their seats, and I'm sitting in the back, and this little dog named Chico came to me, and he says, I'm here because my person is here. And I'm like, what? So at the break, I remember Chico came up to me, and he told me his name was Chico, because pets learn, their name. They learn their name. They learn different words and so forth, and then they can convey them back. So during the break, Chico told me one particular woman with long brown hair was his person that he was here for. And so I stopped her and I said, excuse me, before you go out, do you know a little beige Chihuahua named Chico? And she said, I do. And she said, that was my grandmother's dog that just passed a couple of weeks ago. And she said, what? Why is he here? Why is he here for me? And I said, well, do you have a medium-sized black dog? Because he's been visiting your medium-sized black dog and calming him down and making him a better dog. And she was just shocked because she has a black lab. And she said, that is weird because my dog has acted so much more calm in the last couple of weeks since Chico passed. So that was the first one that was not my dog, and I will never forget that. But dogs have sent me numbers. They've used social media. Actually, they've influenced people to look at social media at a given time on a given day to see signs from them. They'll lead you to another dog that looks like them so that you'll know that they're there. So many incredible things. So between dogs and cats, I mean, I have plenty of stories. So if you want another one, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's fascinated by this. Care Bear says, I love doing readings for pets and pet parents, especially cats. And, I always tell people, I do believe that animals can manipulate just what you said, just like humans can when they pass as well, especially electronics and social media. And people look at me like I'm nuts. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, they can. I mean, if you not sit there and be like, I need to pick up my phone and look at Instagram or Facebook for a moment, and you scroll and you see like, well, that's weird. Why am I looking at this? I'm telling you, it happens.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. They can influence you to look at something in order to give you a sign. So one of the ways that is very popular is that they use numbers, angel numbers. Now, because pets really don't know what numbers are per se, most pets, they will get assistance from a human in spirit. Although I will tell you, our dogs know what the numbers 1, 2, and 3 are, because at night, at 7:30 at night, I do what's called 3 treat time, and I hold up my finger for 1, 2, and 3. So they know those numbers. And sometimes I try to fool them by only giving them 2 treats, and they will sit right there until I pull out that 3rd treat. So they know the number. So sometimes you may see repeating numbers. Those are angel numbers. And many of the pets will give me an angel number. When my dog Dolly passed, since October 20th, 2020, she has given me repeating numbers every single day. As a matter of fact, today she gave me a repeating number. I just happened to pick up the phone. The phone had been laying flat for quite a long time today. And I don't know if you can see this, but there's a number in there.
No, we see the picture.
Yeah, you see the picture. So the number the time was 2:22. It was 2:22. So when I clicked the button to show me the picture, the time was 2:22. Yesterday, I clicked my phone. When I picked it up, it was 1:11. And it doesn't have to be a time. It can be anything. It can be, sometimes I'll come over and I'll look at the temperature station in my office because I'm a meteorologist. I have a thermometer. One day in the morning, it was 4:44. It was 44.4 degrees. Sometimes I will open my email and there'll be an email from like 5:55 p.m. So you can see it anywhere, license plates, times, temperatures, anywhere, repeating numbers. So know that when you do see a repeating number, it is a sign that a spirit is with you. And you have to think, yeah, I mean, you have to think about who it may be. I just know Dolly is always around me every day. But have you seen repeating numbers?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Absolutely. We all do. And we know they're angel numbers. And sometimes we question who are sending those or who's trying to get our attention. So, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And some of the books that you have written, which ones do you fascinate about talking to people? And where can they actually purchase your books at, Mr. Gutro?
So all the books are on Amazon. They're in paperback, they're in ebook, Kindle, and they're also on audiobook. If you don't want to read them, you can listen to them. Gosh, I have a lot of favorites, but my Ghosts on a Medium's Vacation series is probably one of my favorite series too, in addition to the pets, because it's hauntings and true history. So when I visited various places like England, Ireland, and Tombstone, Arizona, not only did I encounter ghosts there and sketch them out and put those in the book, but I also give some history and photos of every place I was so that people use them as travel guides.
Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's very interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, check out Amazon for his books, and they're listed under Rob Gutro. Is that correct? Or
Gutro, yeah.
Gutro, sorry about that. Yes. And paranormal. Let's talk about that for a moment. So, how did you get involved with that?
How did I get involved with it?
The paranormal side, yes, sir.
Sure. After my grandfather appeared to me, when I went back to college to get my meteorology degree, I have 3 degrees, by the way, radio and TV, English, and then meteorology. So I went back in my 30s to get my meteorology degree. By the way, I call it my 3rd degree burn because I'm burnt out with education. I wound up living in a house, renting a room from someone, living in a house that had a ghost in it. Turned out to be a Civil War soldier who was haunting that house. I had no idea because my abilities were not developed at that time, back in the 90s. And I had to figure out that it was a ghost and that he was in the house and not outside. So that's in my first book, Ghosts and Spirits. But I wound up getting on a paranormal team after I wrote my first book and went to speak to this group about the book. And they said, "Hey, we need a medium. Would you like to join?" So I said, "Okay." So I did. The cases that I have been on, Chris, have been crazy. There have been poltergeist activity, which is energy that live from a living person that simulates the activity of a ghost, always from teenagers, by the way. There have been cases with Ouija boards where they've used Ouija boards to open portals to dark places, and people in families have become sick and brought in bad entities. So those are in the books too. One I talked about last night at a local library is a famous double murder investigation that I did, going into this private home finding out that 2 women were murdered and are stayed there as ghosts. And I got picture proof. The team got picture proof. They got an orb, and when we zoomed into it, you could see the face of one of the women, and that's also in one of my books. So
that's very fascinating. What do you think orbs are?
So I think orbs are the most simple form a ghost or a spirit can take. So there's a couple of ways that ghosts or spirits can appear without using a lot of energy. Again, it's all about energy. The more energy they have, the more they can appear in full color. And very few of them have enough energy to do that. So orbs are a small ball of light, and I find that if they have colors and designs in them, that's more that's a genuine orb. Anything that's white tends to be a reflection of dust, pollen, or so forth. There's also ectoplasm, of course, the white, gauzy looking energy. And then there's shadows. People or pets can appear as shadows. And my theory is because they don't have enough energy to appear in full color. Because energy is what they are, they need more energy to appear in color. And when they don't get it, they can appear as a shadow instead.
Is that similar like humans?
Absolutely. Yep. Pets, humans. Yep. Anybody can be a shadow figure just because they don't have enough energy. If they did have enough, they would appear visible. So my dog Buzz, when he passed away, and I adopted another Weimaraner, I remember turning my head one night, like 9:30 at night when I was in the kitchen, and I saw the rear end of a Weimaraner go around the corner. And I thought it was my new dog, Dolly, that I adopted. And I followed the dog. I followed the rear end of this dog into the other room. And I lived in a townhouse, so there was only one way in and one way out of the living room. And turned on the light, and there's nobody there. Then I ran upstairs, and there was my dog, Dolly, sleeping on my bed. So I knew that I had followed Buzz, or at least half of Buzz, into the living room.
Wow.
He didn't have enough energy to become visible in the front, apparently.
That's impressive. That's impressive. And we
It's
hear
crazy.
stories, encounters of like this all the time, and people think they're crazy. I'm like, no, you actually saw what you saw. It's not your figment of imagination or anything. It actually happens. With all these years of experience that you have, what would you tell people? How would you reclassify it with your books and your experiences and meeting people and in your speeches?
Sure. So first of all, I explained that energy is the foundation of the paranormal, and that they need energy, and I explained how they use energy to get strong enough to communicate. And secondly, if you're feeling an impression, if you feel like someone is with you, then they are. Trust your feelings. I always tell people, in the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars to Luke Skywalker, trust your feelings, Luke, because that is absolutely true. And also look at the date, as we talked about, birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. So
That's interesting. Joey's asking about some of the pictures behind you. Can you talk about some of those?
Sure. So thank you for asking, because all of these books are special because all of my dogs are on the covers. Buzz is here. He was my very first dog. Dolly and Franklin are on Pets in the Afterlife 3, Messages from Spirit Dogs. My dog Sprite is in the corner of Pets in the Afterlife 2. And then Pets in the Afterlife 4 is about cats, and I've never had cats. But on the cover of that book, there are 3 cats that each have their own stories within that for readings that I've done. So every one of these books has a chapter too about how my dogs have communicated with me from the other side. And what's interesting too about that, Chris, is that not only have they given me signs, but they've given 2 other friends of mine who are mediums the same signs, and those friends have contacted me and said, "Oh, by the way, Rob, Dolly is telling me this, and this was who was there when she passed." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I got." So
it's interesting. Joey says it's very nice that they're on your books. That's very sweet, he says.
well, our kids are, they're our kids. They're our children. We as you know, so I always tell people that we raise our dogs and cats just like we would raise human kids. We take them to school, take them to the doctor, teach them how to play well with others. They learn language, they learn routine, they learn when it's dinner time. And I said, I always joke that the only difference is that your dog and your cat will not grow up, marry someone you hate, and move away. That's the only difference. And they won't yell at you.
KD wants to know, is it okay to get messages from your animals to get new ones when they pass?
Sure. Yeah, so that's a great question. And there are a couple of other things that I can tell you too, real quick. So it's a good way to honor your pet, to adopt another pet. And use your trust your feelings about when to adopt, when you're ready, if you're ever ready again, because your pet will also influence you that way too. They will also lead you to the next pet they want you to adopt.
Really?
Absolutely. So I have so many stories about that too. For instance, a woman who had a dog named Bullet the Bullet had passed away. She said she would never adopt another dog again. But she said a couple of weeks after Bullet had passed away, she was driving past a shelter from the SPCA. And she said she felt the need to pull in. And she said, I sat there in the car for a minute and I'm like, I'm not going in. I'm not going in. I'm not going in. And she said, well, I'm here. I might as well go in. So she went in. She said she walked through all the cages at SPCA, came to the last cage, looked down, and there was this little dog she fell in love with. And she said, oh my gosh, I can't leave him here. She looked at his name. His name was Trigger. And her dog's name was Bullet that passed away. And she knew that she was led to that dog because Trigger and Bullet are the horses of Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. And again, they will lead you to the next pet they want you to adopt. If you have a dog or a cat, though, who is kind of independent, maybe they want to be the only dog or cat. Trust your feelings. Some pets have come through and said, this is my favorite toy. Don't let my canine brother play with it. Instead, put it up near my ashes.
That's
another dog that came through to me and said, and he was, it was she came through to me and she said, the next dog I want my parents to adopt is a male. I don't want them to ever adopt a female again because I want to be the only female in the family.
Wow. Do they actually listen to you when you tell them?
They do, yeah.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome.
So
Joey wants to know about divorces and when pets are taken away from their loved ones. How does that affect them?
How does that affect the living pets or the pets who pass?
Both.
Okay. So know that whenever a family breaks up, it's going to be very stressful on the pet, one way or the other, because they love both people unconditionally. So there'll be a grieving process for that pet, unless the pet is more closely bonded to you. When everybody passes on, that pet will still be connected to both of you in spirit. So that's what you need to know.
That's interesting. I never thought about that because, yes, I know some people, they went through divorce and it seemed like shortly after their loved ones, referring to animals, were very depressed. And it seemed like shortly after they passed on. and they didn't know what caused it. So yes, you're welcome, Joey, for asking. If y'all have any questions, make sure and put it out there for me so I can ask Rob. So yeah, those are good questions. So yeah, absolutely. Is there any?
Yeah, I have one more thing that I want to bring up to
please.
everybody because
Yes,
this is really important. So often we have to make the choice to help them pass on pain, and that's the most difficult part of having a pet and being a pet parent. But our pets will give us information to let us know it's their time. They may stop eating. They may stop engaging. They will stop playing with toys. They may start isolating themselves when they're usually social. When our dog Franklin was sick, he had spinal problem where one of his discs were slipping, and he was 16 and a half, so he couldn't be operated on again. He had trouble with his back legs, and we would always after dinner, we'd always put him in the TV room and sit and watch TV with him. He gave us a really blunt sign. He used his front legs to get out of his bed, and we watched him crawl across the floor, and we wanted to go over to him, and he growled. So we let him go. He went in the kitchen and went in his bed by himself, and he sat there. And that was a blunt sign to us that he was ready to go.
Wow.
Also, pets will tell me thank you for having the courage to let them go. And they don't want us to feel guilty about that. And they also don't want us to feel guilty if we're not there when they pass. So if they pass by themselves and you're not there, don't feel guilty, because that's a choice. Have you ever had one of your dogs pass when you weren't there?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay. So this message is for you, Chris. Know that your dog made the conscious choice to pass when you weren't there, because they know that seeing them pass is probably going to affect you really badly. You'll probably be having nightmares about this over and over and over again. So what your dog did was to quietly pass on their own, so that you would be spared for any grief with that. Of course, when they do that, we always feel guilty, like, oh my gosh, we should have been there. But it was their choice. It's just like people. People will choose to pass when nobody's around. My own mother did that. She waited for everybody to be out of the room, and then she passed.
That's exactly what Jed did. He waited till I went to work and on the PD, and it was 17 minutes later. Yeah.
Yep. See? So if you've been carrying that, you can let it go now, because that's what he wants you to do.
Wow. Rebecca's asking you, Rob, I adopted a pet who lived on her sick dad's bed. Her mom gave her up. She's likely with him or here visiting with me. Very protective and possessive of me. What do you think? What's your opinion?
So I assume that the pet passed.
Yes.
So the pet would be definitely visiting her, and still be protective of her, but would also be back and forth from spirit. So if her dad passed, the pet would be with her dad for the most part, and then come visit her whenever the pet wants to, around birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, or whenever she feels like she's having a tough time, and she needs some support. Because during those times, pets know that we need their support. Just like if you come in and if you come in your house and your dog is there, or your cat is there, and you feel terrible, or you're crying, or you're stressed, they'll come over and comfort you.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, pets in spirit will do the same thing. They'll come to you too when you're stressed.
Yes, they do. Roger Blair, my grandpa on my dad's side of the family, got killed in the coal mines back in 1944. He had a dog he used for squirrel hunting, and after my grandpa was buried, the dog laid on his grave till it passed away.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There is nothing like the love of a dog or a cat. That's a true testament to unconditional love. And that's their greatest gift to us. It really is. And we only put that in action when we help them cross over. That's what it takes.
Yes, absolutely. And Rob,
Yeah.
how do people find you, book appointments with you, email you, get readings from you, and so forth?
They can find me on they can find me on the web under robgutro.com. If you can't spell my name, type in petspirits.com. It goes to the same place. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. I don't know. It's like an epidemic. You have to cover all these places. And they can ask questions through like Facebook Messenger or Instagram. And I love questions. For readings, all they have to do is email me at rgutro@gmail.com. The information's on my website. Ask me for a reading date, but I have to tell you, Chris, that I'm booked out a year right now. So
I was going to ask you if it was a year or more.
Yeah, it's quite a wait. But I am getting through them faster now that I just retired. So there's hope.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again on your retirement. That's very well deserved.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to taking my first afternoon nap at some point in time.
And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, you can find his books at Amazon.com. Make sure and check them out. And I know a lot of people ask for autographed books. If they want them autographed, what do they need to do to get them autographed by you?
So they can send me an email, and I will. I'll be happy to autograph it with their, send it to their address. And the cost of my books are $10 as they are online. And I'll just ask you to pay for the postage, whatever that is.
Yes,
I think, it's me. I send them media mail, so there is usually like $5 or $6, something like that.
Right. Rob, once again, it's always a pleasure. I can't wait to check back in with you in 4 to 6 months and see how your retirement's going. And I imagine you'll have a good old tan, won't you, sir?
Probably from a light bulb, but really.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been great seeing you again.
Yes, sir. From coast to coast, around the world, everybody. Godspeed. We'll catch you on the next show. Goodbye.